What do you hear from people from the Muslim community here?
What do you mean, what do I hear? Ask me a question.
About the election.
It's election time in Michigan, and so out-of-town reporters have booked their tickets to parachute into Michigan to inspect us like it was mating season for the red-ass baboon. So there are 70,000 adults in Dearborn, but there are 1.1 million people in the automotive industry in Michigan. I tell them the key to Michigan is Dearborn, but not this Dearborn. It's this Dearborn. It's all about cars here in the Great Lakes State, and it's not going well. This is the parking lot at the Ford World headquarters in Dearborn. It's full of unsold vehicles. Likewise, this is GM's world headquarters in Detroit. It's a ghost town. They're moving out next year. It's not a bustling beehive of innovation, is it? Chrysler's headquarters is in Auburn Hills, just up the highway. The place is a tombstone. Its European owners just killed the Ram truck here and are expanding it down there in Mexico. But the workers up here are the ones who are out on their asses, and they're not happy.
And I've been here 4 years working hard. See, I'm sweating, hot, tired, legs hurt, knees hurt, back hurt, and you want your car back. You want to give these jobs to other people so you can pay them less than what you're paying me.
Traditionally around here on 8 Mile, you knew it was busy if you saw the trains running, you saw the hookers out on the street. But you don't see no hookers no more. They don't work this area. And I don't see hardly any trains running over there anymore, Charlie.
They're laying off thousands of workers in Michigan and hiding thousands of unsold vehicles. And that's the story here in the Great White North. Now, some kittens.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's the No Bullshit News Hour with my main man, Charlie LeDuff and Karen Dumas.
It's just it, breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
Well, not so much Karen Dumas. See these balloons?
Oh,
It's
man.
Karen's birthday. I was throwing a surprise party for her, and she's home. First time ever. Sick. I got her a chocolate chip cake from Big Boys, her favorite. Delivered by a Chippendale. Yes, her ex-husband.
Just what every woman wants.
But, you know, give me a wide shot, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Karen,
Oh.
happy birthday.
Jesus.
Easy. It's not like we're recycling them. It's over. Happy birthday, dear. We love you.
Yes, we miss you.
Yes, we do. Got Ramon Jackson, the advocate, the man tearing through all the voter registration, the voters, the absentee voters, the ghost voters. A very reputable man. How you doing, dude?
How you doing, Charlie?
Told you we'd have you back. So the federal court threw out your lawsuit, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll get to that.
Yes, sir.
But first, as promised, because this is the election season. It's not election day anymore. It's 36 days of Votapalooza in Jocelyn, Benson's Michigan, right? You can start voting 28 days before the election, and we accept ballots from overseas until 6 days after the election. And we're going to get into all of that. Joss, I'm going to tell you something, you dope. You're a dope. You studied political science, and Elon Musk studied real science. And we're going to go through the numbers because it's you who are purveying disinformation, and everybody knows my position on this. I do not claim fraud went on in 2020, as I was the man in Michigan that processed the most absentee ballots, but you are leaving this door wide open for conspiratorialists and for cheaters, quite frankly. But as promised, the Crocodile Dundee of immigration, the man who's slogging through the jungles of Panama and Colombia, the guy sort of being kidnapped by the cartel, want to know what you're doing here, bro, right? He just got back from the Mexico-Guatemala border. I mean, no one else is doing this. The guy wrote this book right here. It's a great book. It's a classic. Since nobody in the world is covering this story like Todd Bensman of the Center for Immigration Studies, just know, Everybody that's here 3 generations from now, the only man that was chronicling the journey was Todd Bensman. This is his book. It's a terrific one. It's called Overrun, How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History. I think that's just a fact now. That's not even opinion. It's just a fact. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing great. Thanks for that intro. I'm totally stealing that Crocodile Dundee of immigration.
All right, let's do this. Let's introduce the listening public here to your latest piece of work. You're on a fucking raft. What's the name of the river that is the border between Mexico and Guatemala?
That's the Rio Suchiate.
Okay.
So,
this is Todd on the river Rio Suchiate.
Hi, I am on the Rio Suchiate River, which is the boundary between Guatemala and Mexico. This is where hundreds of thousands of U.S.-bound immigrants are crossing to get to the United States eventually. But right now, the Mexican government is hemming them up and blocking their northward progress in the southern state of Chiapas. This is Chiapas over here, Mexico. They're all headed over there. But what will happen is they'll find their pathway blocked under a diplomatic agreement with the Biden administration back in December to lessen the congestion at our border for the Democratic Party's election campaign for president. They succeeded in bringing the numbers way down by blocking them up in Chiapas State and in Tabasco State. But this is where they're crossing. They're still continuing to cross. A lot of the immigrants say that they are coming because they are fearful that Donald Trump will win a re-election and close the American border. So there is a panic, an urgency among the migrants to make this trip, to get over this river and just find some way to get to the American border. The Guatemala side now is, we're told, ridden with gangs that are controlling the trade now. Whereas once they used to just pay these guys 100 pesos to cross back and forth, they're having to pay $100 a head cash before they can get on one of those boats. And it has to be escorted. So a lot of these boats have an escorted, like a coyote on them, and you can see them. I tried to talk to one a little bit earlier, and I couldn't do it. But I'm Todd Bensman with the Center for Immigration Studies on the Rio Suchiate River, right smack dab between Guatemala and Mexico.
There's another one. Ese que viene allá, tampoco. Hasta allá arriba, mire.
That is some wild ass shit. That, Todd, man, I mean, amazing work. Bravo.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, now let's get to this. Let me back up here. It was December. It was last year. You said in there the Biden administration met with the Mexicans and cut a deal. It's been reported by the Mexican press. It's been reported by you. Probably we paid the Mexicans $20 billion, and they bulldozed all those migrant camps on the Texas, Arizona, California border, and they shipped everybody south. Is that correct?
That's right. They call it internal deportation. And it's an operation, the Mexican media calls it Operation Carousel, because anybody who gets through ends up getting caught and deported back. Now, obviously, we're still getting 50, 60,000 a month that are making it through. Those are the rich ones that can pay cartel smugglers to pay everybody off all along the way. Cost is no object, but for the most part, hundreds of thousands, untold hundreds of thousands have been trapped down there to keep our border from looking so terrible and making the media go away and do other things. So the point of the trip was to go down into the, I call them caged cities, and see what's going on inside them. And because we're 2 weeks out from the election and kind of what's going on. And that was the purpose of this trip. I'm still producing my reports from them. I have something that's going to post in the Daily Mail here, I think today, this morning. I don't even know if it's up yet. And then again, something in the New York Post. And then CIS, I haven't even written half of the stuff that I'm going to write on this thing, but we could talk about it.
So so the Mexicans deported them to Guatemala or deported them to their own city, Tapachula, in Chiapas on the border there? Where did they send these people to hold them?
They sent them to their own southern provinces, mainly Chiapas State and Tabasco State, and mainly 2 cities, but lots of other cities are filled with them too. Tapachula, which is probably the biggest, most crowded one, is the one I went to, and another one called Villahermosa, which is in the neighboring state of Tabasco. I can't get a good handle on how many are down there, but I've been to Tapachula, 5 or 6 times, and I'm telling you, I've never seen it so shoulder to shoulder, sardine can packed as I saw it this time. I mean, and the publisher of the local newspaper said that there are probably 150,000 jammed up just in Tapachula alone. So I have to figure at least that much are jammed up over in Villahermosa. And now they're doing population transfers within those states where they're busing them to other cities just to relieve the horrendous congestion, the high misery index that have developed as a result of that Biden diplomatic deal, where they're all jammed up down there. It's horrendous what's going on down there, to be honest. I mean, even, the most ardent anti-immigration restrictionists would have a hard time not feeling that down there.
So it seems to me the Mexicans have no intention of sending these people home. It's just bottle them up for a minute, and over the next couple days, couple weeks, couple months, assuming, let's say Trump wins, we're going to get a bum rush. And if Harris wins, they're coming anyway. Is that what we can expect?
That's right. And that was part of what I found down there. I interviewed, right now in the news, you'll see caravans are forming out of Tapachula, marching. I found one while I was down there and traveled with it for an entire day. I was the only one with this caravan reporter type guy. And I interviewed, many, many dozens of immigrants there and the cops. But the caravans are not heading to the U.S. border. They're just simply intercity transfers. The U.S. media's got that all wrong, that they're all heading to the U.S. border right now. They're not yet, because the Mexicans realize that they've got these 2 important weeks to hold them back. They have to hold them back before the election. And so they're not getting anywhere north of Mexico City, that's for sure. They're escorted by the military, by the Mexican military, National Guard, state police, and municipal police are actually the ones that are organizing, facilitating, and moving them from horrendously packed Tapachula to less horrendously packed other cities in Chiapas State, and then blocking them in there. That's really the purpose of those caravans. But you're right, all bets are off after November 5th. This deal, it appears to me, is all part of a get the U.S. border looking pretty good. Hold on.
Selena Gomez is calling from the grave.
Yeah, it's my wife. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Somebody's trying to get into the house. Anyway, I just wanted to.
It's probably your boyfriend. Want to see if you're home. I thought you were going to be on a raft this week.
Hey, man, I'm at home, so it's good to be home. So in some ways, it's good to be home.
Selena's calling.
I can't get it to shut up.
Oh, your wife?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, so we see the movement come. $20 billion Monty here. From your excellent reporting as well. Like, do you go where like no man goes? You've been accosted. You've had guns pointed at you. It's weird stuff. I'm looking at those coyotes on the raft. When I crossed with the Sinaloa cartel in 2000, we had to lay in a field that night and cover ourselves with black trash bags so we wouldn't be seen. And when they pulled up, the dude, like we all had to get in the back of a pickup truck with the camper top on it, and it was just wall to wall, and they were going 100, and I was afraid we were going to die. And then the window slides open from the front, the cab, and it's a guy handing one bottle of water. There got to be 24 of us, one bottle of water, and he's totally bald, except for a curly Q on his forehead. He looked like Charlie Brown. He looked like Charlie Brown. So when I'm seeing those, you're floating by the gangs, basically, you see his hair. I mean, this guy looks totally urban, like he's going to the club. He's got the nice fitting black tee. The hair's up in a man bun. Looks totally different than everybody else down there, yeah?
Yes. So, here's the thing is the Suchiati, I've been going there for years. That's a really interesting place. It's a bottleneck spot where if you're reporting on immigration, that's the place to go see it. But what was different this time, I think I was there early last year. I was down there in Tapachula, and what's different this time is that really dangerous Sinaloa cartel groups from further north have moved in there, and they have seized control of that crossing.
Oh.
And I mean, these guys are armed up with, ARs and machine guns and pistols and everything. And so everybody who is crossing there has to pay the toll now. They get, I have dozens of testimonials about that, to cross on those little boats now. And they have to have these escorts, and you can see them. They're all around. Everybody's scared to death down there on that crossing area. I had some of the kind of workers in the area tell me about what was going on, and it was in whispers and secrets and looking over their shoulders. I mean, I'd never seen that level of fright around that area before. It was usually really chill. In fact, that's Tucunaman, the town of Tucunaman over in Guatemala. And I always go over to Tucunaman and hang out and, rent a motorcycle and drive all around and et cetera. But this time I didn't want to go over there. It was just too hairy even for me. So, but the thing is that I guess the bigger picture is that the diplomatic deal that we're talking about that jammed up all these people gave rise to this opportunity for the cartels. That's all on the Biden government. It's on the Mexican government too, which all along should have been blocking that border, has always needed to block that border and do deportation so that this kind of thing can't happen.
And did so under Trump eventually.
It did so under, people were moving through up until a certain point under Trump, but Trump is the one who invented this blockade idea for Mexico. Trump came up with it back in 2019 and said, listen, if you don't guard that border down there and block people from coming in huge numbers, it'll be 28% progressive trade tariffs on you. And so the Mexicans complied, and it worked. It worked just like this is working. I'm not saying this is a terrible policy. It's just that under the Biden-Harris administration, it's temporary. It's just until probably about November 5th. And so everybody there that I interviewed are like, my God, if Trump wins, we're stuck out here. And so more and more people are pouring through, hoping for freedom to move north on November 6th.
And let's make a point here. I mean, $100 just across a river. I hope people understand how impoverished these nations are that these people come from, and what $100 means. I mean, you sold everything and you're moving. There's no place to go back to, right? It's just netherworld.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but listen, most of these are economic migrants. They're not fleeing something horrible.
Right.
It's just that they thought that the border was open, get in, and then we had an election where the Democrats were suffering from polling about illegal immigration. So they got caught up in that. They got caught up right in mid-stride sort of a thing. I'm thinking that if Trump wins, there'll be the transition period, about 10 weeks, where we might very well see a really mad rush over the border as Mexico releases these people finally. And if Harris wins, I'm thinking that the Mexicans, like, we did our part. We met our bargain. We did our part of the bargain, but we're done now, and we'll let them go there, except that that'll continue for 4 years. So Trump will get this thing back under control. They're right. The immigrants are right. They're going to get pushed back into Mexico. But the Mexicans are going to be like, as long as you can get through, get while the getting's good.
Now let me bring Ramon in here. Ramon Jackson, the Advocate, Detroit, Michigan. Ramon, it seems to me that our biggest problem with immigration, the whole system, is Mexico. For instance, we belong to a trade bloc, right? So the black jobs Trump was talking about. Yes, these are American companies exporting our jobs to Mexico, yes, paying them $3 an hour and bringing it back up here and expecting us to be able to afford it. Yes. And number two, the plurality, not the majority, but the most of people that enter illegally are Mexicans. Mm-hmm. So what is your take on that, being a Detroiter, and what you see for the black community here?
First, I want to say to Todd, thanks for the work that you're doing down there, Todd, man. You're a patriot, man. I thank you for the work. That NAFTA, when Trump kind of got into office, Trump renegotiated the NAFTA agreement. And people don't understand, during that agreement, it was 62. Before Trump renegotiated, it was 62 production that had to stay here. When he renegotiated, it went to 75 production. And that means that 13% was increased. That means millions of jobs was kept here in this country. Us knowing that the automotive industry is a job placement for the black community. So if you are taking jobs out of the country from people that's in the country, you're taking away people opportunity to be able to support themselves. So I agree 100% with the tariffs that Trump is placing on John Deere, the automotive industry, and that tariff he placed on Mexico to get their immigration in order.
And, when he talks black jobs, I think we both get it. The media makes something out of it. It's like, it's an urban center. Mm-hmm. As you said to me yesterday, like, we understand the pecking order. And these factory jobs are very important to black society here.
Not just factory jobs. When you go, I was talking to a person, and they was talking about Uber, even Uber jobs. Immigrants is doing Uber jobs. It's a lot of black people in this country and white people that just won't drive Uber. Don't matter what race they is. But it's certain groups of people in our community that may drive these jobs. Those jobs are being replaced by the immigrants. They saying that, look, most of our drivers now can't even speak English or don't even talk to us. So people know what they mean by black jobs. There's nothing racist about it. It's the job placement that curtails to a certain group of people, and we know what it is, man.
And when there's a scarcity of workers, that means to get them, you got to pay more. Mm-hmm. When you got an overflow of workers, the price comes down.
Yes, sir.
And that hits us all.
Yes,
that's
sir.
just simple math,
sir.
man.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Todd, I just want to get quickly your personal perspective. This is a crocodile gringo here, and you're floating around, fucking around with cartels, flying a drone, right? Going live on the camera. I've done that, and I get super spooked. I really do. Like, every move's got to be thought out. How's it for you? I mean, do you shit yourself a little bit sometimes?
I've had a couple of uncomfortable moments down there. In August, I was down in Colombia, which was hairy. I was doing the Darien Gap, which is
the jungle.
Yeah. And that whole area was controlled by this group called the Gaitanista Self-Defense Force of Colombia, which is just a paramilitary drug cartel, basically. But they've got like 8,000 guys under arms, and they control this whole area. Anyway, they caught me filming, and they jacked me up pretty good. I wasn't sure for a while there I was going to get out of the town that I was in. But I'm here to tell the tale. The Darien Gap, by the way, is a major story. You have the as an aside, Panama's new president took office July 1, has offered to close the gap. All they need is a little bit of American money and diplomatic muscle, and the Americans won't give the guy a dime to close that Darien Gap. They're leaving it open. But
you mean because once they close it, there's a bunch of foreign nationals on Panamanian soil, and the Panamanians don't want refugee camps. They want to fly people home. And America, if you don't want these people coming to you, give us some money to fly them home. That's all we're asking.
That's right. That's right. So they just want to fly them back, which creates a deterrence. You don't want to spend $10,000 to cross through and get all the way to the U.S. border for smuggling and all the rest if you know you're going to end up flown back to Africa or wherever you're from. But the Biden-Harris administration won't give them the money. So the gap's open to this day. It's really a squandered golden opportunity to really close down a lot of this. There's people from 190 different countries coming to our border. On this trip alone, I met Iranians and Vietnamese. I'd never met Vietnamese before, but there were tons of Vietnamese in Tapachula, long lines of them, backpacking through the middle of town. And in my hotel too, Armenians, everybody from every country on the continent of Africa. Those people all came through the Darien Gap. Chinese, all the countries.
Let me pause you there a second, because 190 countries is basically every country on earth. So you have Russians, and we don't really have good diplomatic relations with the Russians. You have Chinese. We don't have very good relations with the Chinese. Venezuelans, we don't have very good relations. Not Nicaraguans, because they're north. Cubans. If the president of the United States, let's say Trump becomes president of the United States, he says, what we're going to do is round up these criminals. Our first priority is the criminals. If you're a Russian criminal, right, you're part of the mafia, or you're part of the Venezuelan train gang, or you're some group from Cuba, how are we going to send them home if those governments refuse to take these people? Where are we going to put the people, the bad guys from countries where we don't have relations?
Pretty simple answer to that. It's called economic sanctions if you don't take them back. And also visa restrictions. Nobody from your country gets to come in on a student visa or a business visa or a tourist visa ever again until the day you start taking them back. Now, Trump understood that calculus and did it with a whole lot of countries, actually did it and got they're called recalcitrant countries, and got the recalcitrant countries to reverse their recalcitrance. And now all of a sudden they're quite friendly about receiving.
I told you, Ramon, that Todd knows his shit.
Oh man, Todd a good guy out here in the field, and I see who he support. He know what he talking about.
Recalcitrant countries. Have you heard that? Not me. I've been asking.
Write that down for us, Todd.
Yeah, write that down and do it phonetically.
There you go. Anyway, the point is that, the Biden administration said, well, God, they won't take anybody back. So I guess we just have to keep them. But that's just patently untrue. You just simply say, take them or else. And that's the way the world works. Okay, Todd, you can hang if you want. I'm going to do a few spots here, and then we're going to talk about Michigan in the election rolls. You probably want to go. Your wife's locked outside. And no, that's long story. But
he's like, no, I got her locked in the basement. No, you got it all wrong. All right, you want to hang with us?
Yeah.
All right, great. You hear what's going on in Michigan. But first, Todd Bensman was brought to you by Luke Nowacki, who reminds you that the politicians lie to you, the media lies to you. How do you know if your investment statement is lying to you? This is what you do. You call a money man who knows you, knows what you need, knows your risk aversion, right? He's planning a future for you. Do you have kids? Well, do you have kids, Ramon?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a college account for them?
Not yet.
Do you know what a 529 is?
No, sir.
Exactly. I didn't know either till I called Logan. What do you mean a 529? Mm-hmm. You put money in the market, it makes money, compounds. When you take it out for your kid's college, no tax.
529.
529. In fact, you don't need to remember that number. You need to remember this number. 248-663-4748. Write that down. Here you go. I'm telling you, Luke Nowacki, he's the guy. He'll tailor a financial plan specifically for you, from annuities to retirement accounts to college savings, which is a 529. Luke Nowacki. He'll worry so you don't have to. 248-663-4748. And Archangel Senior Management. If you're looking to invest in something socially responsible, this is where you want to look. Archangel specializes in elder living within the neighborhoods. It's lovely. It's nice. There's gardens out front. There are neighbors who look after you. They're not loud. They're not rowdy. The living space is small. If you're an investor, you call Joe LeBlanc. I won't explain it all, but you're going to invest in the property, right? And you get your return. And the caregiving gets paid, and along the way, they're able to buy the home if you're so willing to sell it to them. This is sort of how it works. So the caregivers have a buy-in. You, the investor, have a buy-in and a return. The neighborhood has elders, which it should, and the elders live way better than we know they're living now, because we saw what happened and what's going on with them in COVID. Mm-hmm. Right? That's Archangel Senior Management, 989-614-0416. The care is genuine, the owners are local, and Archangel has Overwatch. 989-614-0416. Right? Right. Man, I got it. Karen, happy birthday. Got a bucket of chocolate for you, but your head hurts. No, excuse me, too much coffee. All right. Ramon Jackson, a.k.a. The Advocate. Real quick, let's do this take, because you've been on the show before, the people know you. You started getting involved in what is going on with Michigan's voting rolls, because why?
What's going on with Michigan voters' rolls? They are being inflated with fraudulent people added to the list that moved away, or people kept on the list who's deceased or moved away and been gone for years. Or they got people that they allege that live overseas on these lists too. And that's what's going on. They're registering them back to Detroit after they leave Detroit without their knowledge, and they're casting votes in their names without their knowledge. That's what's going on.
And in 2020, you started looking into this. In 2020, you voted in person.
Yes.
And then you came to find out, no, you voted absentee.
But I didn't vote absentee. I voted in person.
Exactly.
Yes.
Your friend John Kennedy, nice guy, moved out of Detroit years ago, right?
Never voted.
He's never voted in his life.
Never voted, never registered to vote.
But all of a sudden...
moved out of Detroit, showed up, registered to vote in Detroit in 2020, and showed up voting in 2020, and showed up voting in both 2022 elections. And he don't know nothing about it.
And you have dozens of instances of people that moved out of state.
Yes.
Right? That somehow are voting in state.
Yes.
Which is illegal. Let's say I moved to California. I can call Michigan and go, send me the ballot. But I have to have an address in Michigan.
Yes.
And you're finding dozens of examples where send it to the post office. That's also my residence.
Right.
Which isn't legal.
Yes. Dozens of them. Most of the post office here in Detroit have people actually registered to vote at the actual post office address, not a residential address. Like we was explaining, you can use the post office to get your ballot sent to you so that you can vote at your residential address. But when the post office and the residential address is the same, that's illegal.
So you brought this up. You're not a joke, dude. You're like, it's pretty deep. And just like we started the show, like everybody from around the world's calling you, the Germans, the Swedes, CNN, right? Everybody.
Yes.
So you're a serious person. Your findings are correct. You had a suit in federal court that was dismissed yesterday?
Day 4 yesterday, Monday.
By what grounds?
Standing.
What, you can go ahead and...
Okay. First off, I want to say this. The same thing, all the lawsuits on election integrity that's been dismissed, it's the same concept. If you remember the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, they brought up the election lawsuits, and the same thing the presidential candidate stated, that The judge dismissed all the cases because of standing. He said that I'm an ex-president, and I said I don't got standing. My case was dismissed. I'm a black man from Detroit. My case was dismissed.
Prove it.
Because of standing as well. Okay, Monday. And they said in my case that Jackson cannot show that he suffered an injury, in fact, that is concrete and particularized. His claim that the conspiracy resulted in the dilution of his votes in prior election is an injury to his right to vote like all citizens who participated in the electoral process. The type of injury is so widespread that it amounts to a general grievance rather than a particularized harm. What they saying is that it happened to all of us. So yours is not particular.
Yeah, it's not that strange.
Yes.
So what Ramon Jackson said, you didn't even bring up the fact in this case that your ballot got changed.
What I didn't bring that up, but I brought up the fact that I was registered to vote after I moved away at an address I never ever lived at. And they also a ballot application was formulated in my name. They never mentioned that in the response because that was a particularized harm. Just like they never mentioned my friend who moved away, who was registered to vote back here without his knowledge, and votes was cast in his name, because those are particularized harms that they have no response for.
This type of injury, like you're also saying, there's some illegitimate votes cast out there.
Yes.
And the judge said this type of injury is, quote, so widespread that it amounts to a general grievance rather than a particular harm.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, I'm not alleging that there's widespread fraud. In fact, as you know, I probably, quite likely, processed more absentee ballots in the state of Michigan in 2020 than anybody at TCF. But having said that, this process is so fucked up. It's so junky, and it's so incompetently handled by Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson that you leave the door wide open. You could drive a Mack truck through this for not only conspiratorialists, but actual fraud. Mm-hmm. So let's back up. There's a little famous Twitter spat here between Elon Musk and Jocelyn Benson. And before I read this to you, I want to remind you something. In college, Jocelyn Benson studied political science, and Elon Musk studied actual science. So this should tell you about math. Now, on Twitter, Elon Musk says, Michigan has more registered voters than eligible citizens. Is that true? Is that true? Well, the fact of the matter is, today on Jocelyn Benson's own voter information site, government site, there are 8.44 million active voters on the rolls. Michigan has 7.9 million adults. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's 106% of the adult population is registered to vote. Jocelyn Benson tweets back, let's be clear. Elon Musk is spreading dangerous disinformation. It should be noted that misinformation is taking information and presenting it incorrectly. You didn't quite know. Like, I thought 2 times 2 was 5, right? Well, it's not. That you're misinformed. That's misinformation. If the government or some expert says 2 times 2 is 5, here's the study, everybody knows it, that's knowingly doing it. That's disinformation. The political scientist Jocelyn Benson says, here are the facts, and she's going to give us some math. There aren't more voters than citizens in Michigan. There are 7.2 million active registered voters and 7.9 million citizens of voting age in our state. Musk is pushing misleading number that includes 1.2 million inactive records slated for removal in accordance with the law. Couple of things here. Let me see that again. I'm going to go through that. Let me just go through her response. Number 1, there aren't more voters than citizens, she says. There are 7.2 million active registered voters. That's incorrect. There are 8.44 million registered voters in Michigan who can vote if they so choose.
Today.
Maybe 1.2 million haven't voted in a long time, and they're scheduled to be released.
Slated.
Like after this election and after the 2026 election, but they can still vote. That's part 1. Part 2, Madam, you're spreading disinformation. You're a dummy. Go onto your own site, the Michigan voter information. I took a screenshot. According to you, updated this morning, there are 8,444,000 registered voters. Those scheduled inactive voters, those who haven't voted that you're going to remove next year after this election, are 338,000. In 2027, another 257,000.
Wow.
Basically, what I'm saying is there are 600,000 inactive records slated for removal in accordance with the law, not 1.2. It's a falsity. It's a flat out lie, and you have to correct it. I will go on your website where you say snitch on your neighbors, and I will let you know that you are engaging in voter disinformation, that you're trolling. Let's go back up to the top there. There are 7.2 million active registered voters. Well, only 5.2 or 5.5 voted in 2020. So I don't know what you mean by active. But you say there are 7.9 million citizens of voting age in our state. No. There are 7.9 million adults of voting age. But they're not all citizens. They don't have the right to vote, and that's why we're in the spot we're in.
I want to say something. In my lawsuit, I covered Detroit having more registered voters than people
of voting age.
They allege to have 509,000 registered voters in our city. It's only 25% of 629,000 people is 483,000 people. So they say 25% of the population is under 18. This before the new law change. So that would make 25% of 629,000 400 and not 489. 400 and what I say 400.
You're drowning me in the numbers.
83,000. Okay, so it's impossible to have 509,000 registered voters with 400.
We got 500,000 registered voters and 400,000 adults.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
Come on, girl. Who are you bullshitting? Let's do another one. Because Ramon's got all the voting laws. It's Todd with his wife. According to Jocelyn Benson's active voter file, this is Jocelyn Benson, there are 16,666 registered voters of the age of 100 years old or more. 16,666. 1 out of every 500 Michigan residents is a centenarian. I've never met one.
Me either.
Never met one. 1 out of 500. I should meet him today.
Yes.
Okay, that's that. But if you go on the Social Security Administration's index, did I send you that? Okay. You just have to take my word for it. According to Social Security, as in 2023, 2,119 people were 100 years old. So, Jocelyn Benson, your active voter list is only 680% wrong. This is a freaking joke. You're a joke. You haven't clarified voting in Michigan. She's muddied it. She's turning it into a month-long holiday where you don't even have to show ID or have an address.
Our voting rights done totally, our voting safeguards done totally been stripped here, especially since we've been coming out discovering all the election fraud. They've been hammering at the safeguards on voting rights ever since people been discovering it. I tell people all the time, if we ain't careful, the foxes is controlling the hen house. So if they cheated in, they gonna make sure that laws are put into place that to protect them from being caught cheating.
Right. And again, I'm not alleging any cheating, but it's Benson herself and these clowns that are calling it into question. She's the one that threatens election integrity, right? You found a couple dozen. Okay. I mean, Biden won by 155,000. You can see what I'm talking about, though. Here's one. It is, let me see if I can pull it up here. This is the latest one. I want to get the website correct so everybody can go there if they want. It is, I broke my screen, so it's hard to see. Vote from Abroad. Vote from Abroad. It's a new one. The Democrats put $1 million behind it. Mm-hmm. If you live overseas and you want to vote, this is ostensibly what it is. Mm-hmm. And they pretend it's a shadow deal. They pretend it's for military personnel and their families. Right. But military personnel are already handled. Mm-hmm. You do it on base. Mm-hmm. There's a whole, it's been around forever.
Yes, sir. Whole process.
There's a little special caveat in this. For military personnel or family or those living abroad, period. Within this, you can live abroad, never have lived in the United States, never had an address, but you're the child of a citizen or your guardian or your spouse.
Yes.
And you can go on here and you can register to vote. You can register to vote and they'll send you the application and you've never been in the United States.
Remember, the safeguards is being hammered away. The laws governing overseas voters used to be the only way that you can vote here is that you have to vote from your last address that you resided in before you move abroad. When people started to identify fraudulent people or people that's casting ballots from overseas, that's when that came, what you talking about, that now you can even lived over here or anything like that, stopping us from being able to track and trace those voters.
And you don't even got to have an address.
Don't even got to have an address.
It's like the person that you're related to. Where's the last place they lived in Michigan? And as we know by Michigan voter registration, it could be near the dumpster, right?
Right, for sure.
And you saw it on there. People are using the P.O. box. So when you, in this application, you don't even have to put down the name of your parent.
Right.
So you can't even track if that parent exists. So I went on with a friend to this site. All right. What's your name? Okay. Sirhan. What's your birthday? March 19th, 1944. Okay. What is your mailing address overseas? I said, oh, it's SAA1W, Buckingham Palace. Okay. What was the last address that you know of whoever it is you belong to, which they have no ability to check? The Secretary of State cannot check the citizenship of your parent. So I said, near 2 Woodward, which is City Hall. Okay. Do you have a social security number? I do not, because I've never lived in the United States. Do you have a Michigan ID? Oh, I do not. Well, just check this box here. Okay. Would you like to receive your voting material, your ballot, by email? I sure would. Send it to sirhan@gmail.com. Okay. Now, just sign this box with a special online tool. Sign the box, sign your name, and we'll mail it to you. Now, I didn't sign the name, and I didn't send it on because Dana Nessel is well known as an incompetent boob. Ask anybody in Flint, is totally incompetent, but she's well known to be vindictive. And when Jocelyn Benson's engaging on her own disinformation campaign, this thing, according to the Democrats, right, they're all working together, 9 million people might be eligible for this. 265,000 people attached to Michigan?
That number increased.
What is that?
I want to say this, Charlie. To be able to put a safeguard on them overseas voters, we have to make sure that those ballots landed to them and the applications adequately went to where they supposed to be voting from, or they mailed it to the address and then mailed it back. We caught them like that with an overseas voter named Beckman back in February. We found out that they didn't send the application to Germany. They sent it to Detroit, so it was no way that she was able to take an application, fill one in, and submit it back because you never sent it to her. So in order for us to curtail that, we have to follow where they send the ballots.
Do you believe, Ramon Jackson, a.k.a. the Advocate, that there's widespread fraud?
Absolutely.
Okay, I, Charlie LeDuff, friend of the Advocate, do not believe so. But we both believe there's an open runway here for such a thing and that people should rightly be concerned.
as your friend, Charlie, I say this. If we pull the 2020 election in Detroit, it was 257,000 people voted in 2020. The list is 8,600 pages. If we comb through that list, I'm talking about a team of us, we would find an excessive amount of fraud.
You suspect content because you did a random sampling and found your own stuff.
I did a random sampling.
You did enough of a basis that those in the media who actually get paid,
yes,
should engage in it, but they're in the trick bag.
I found enough instances where the pattern was discovered of utilizing people who have moved out of Detroit and never ever voted in their life, and it was registered back here and voted when they left absentee.
Okay, listen, I gotta piss. So, happy birthday, Karen. Ramon, thanks for being here. Todd, you still there?
Thanks for having me.
Hope your wife got it. All right, we'll see you next week. Remember to vote. Vote often.